Luckily, I'd already met him, and we had already spoken, but they had asked me to do this task, and I certainly was quite nervous, but I saw an opportunity, and I took it. So the first thing I did, obviously, was I did my homework. I knew that if I did a great job, I'd have an opportunity to work with the Trump Organization. And if I did an okay job, I'd work at Beck Summit Management Company or move on to another golf club. I don't think that was my goal there. I had a one-shot opportunity, and I was certainly going to take it. So when the day of the big meeting came to Trump Tower, I walked in, very bold, very confident. I was the only woman there in a sea full of suits. So I saw no reason to be shy about putting my best foot forward. So when the time came, I walked into Donald Trump's enormous office, and after I got through with the 900 pictures that were plastered on his wall of himself and his awards and his trophies, because that wasn't intimidating at all. But I grabbed a chair, and I sat it right in front of his desk. And I think there's about 4 chairs that sit in his immediate, right in front of his desk, and there's about 4 or 5 that you have to slug up and put next to him. But I went after the big seat. And to this day, I always sit in the big seat. I think it's superstitious. So I basically gave him my pitch. At the end of my presentation, which probably took about 10 minutes, but at the time it felt about 10 hours, it was dead silent. He didn't say a word. And that probably lasted for about 2 minutes, which of course felt like 2 hours. So he looks at me and he says, "So Carolyn, what do you think?" And in my mind, I'm saying, what the hell are you asking me for? You're this real estate genius. What do I know? So after I got over that, again, I saw another opportunity and I jumped on it. And I told him, I gave him 3 scenarios how I thought the club should be run. And I jumped on the one that I thought would make the most money for him, and which one would brandish the Trump name. However, it would be costly to do it up front. And needless to say, he's chosen that option. And here I am today. So not long after that, Donald purchased the property. Not long right after that, just as I had hoped, I was kept on by him as the sales and marketing manager. I was hired. But only after one very difficult year of working under one very difficult boss, who eventually, thank God, was fired himself, did I once get up the gumption to promote myself to the next higher level. And it was at that higher level that I knew I would need to function more like an entrepreneur. It would make or break me, and I felt ready to take the test, because failure for me was not an option. At an opportune moment, I proposed to Donald that I, a 25-year-old woman with less than 2 years' experience in the famously male-dominated golf industry, be appointed general manager of the Trump Organization's first golf club in the Northeast. It's a really good idea, isn't it? I just think it's brilliant. So of course he looked at me, appraisingly I might add, never skeptically though, and he thought about it for a while, and again that felt like 6 hours. And he just kind of slapped his knee and he said, "I think that's a good idea, and we're going to give that a chance." So here I am, incredibly excited, and then I said to myself, what the hell did I just do? But he took a chance on me, and to this day I thank him for that. As he writes in his introduction to my new book, Carolyn 101, he writes, "The first time I met Carolyn, I saw potential in her. The first time I saw the golf course, now known as Trump National, I saw potential in it. Potential that Carolyn has helped me capture in the succeeding years. I am proud to report that 10 years later, both Carolyn and the golf courses have exceeded all of my expectations." Once I was appointed general manager of the Trump Organization's first golf club in the Northeast, I had to decide on how I was going to adopt my own management style. And I was very lucky in many ways, because the manager before me had done such a poor job. I'm thinking I could only do better. He was somewhat of a tyrant, and I'm a manager of motivation. Cautious as cautious as I was about not wanting to compromise this newfound authority that I had, I intuitively grasped that I had already developed this management style. It was my personal style. I was, in fact, the very same collegial style I had been working on since my mid-teens, when I first started working in restaurants and banquet facilities and at little beach clubs in my hometown. I believe that the foundation of motivation and management begins for many of us long before we take our first jobs. The lessons and ways of acting and being that make us hard drivers or coasters in the future are mainly taught to us in childhood. It was to teach us the value of a dollar that our mother encouraged all of her daughters to sell Avon, which we did at 12 years old. But it was also because we could use the money. Putting all 4 of us children through school and through college wasn't cheap or easy, as I'm sure you all know. The fortunate fact that as a child both of my parents taught me the value of a dollar has probably been the one single lesson that has done more good for me later in life. And as a parent, I've worked hard to emulate my parent at teaching our children the value of a dollar. At the age of 4, my son Connor became fascinated with lobsters at our Stop and Shop. And I suppose all kids do, because they swim, they float, and they look like little action figures. And whenever we'd go to the supermarket, we'd always find him there. It was very tough to pull him away. So one time he's looking at it, and we're talking about these lobsters, and now he says, "Mom, let's bring these home." I said, "Well, they're really not toys, Connor." "No, let's eat them." "No, let's bring them home and eat them." So of course this presented something of a quandary for my husband and I, but we looked at it as an opportunity to teach Connor a valuable lesson, the value of a dollar. So my husband said to Connor, "You know, Connor, we don't buy lobsters all the time because they cost a lot of money." And we began to say the value of this money and why Mommy and Daddy go to work. So I thought about it for a while. We thought he had it. About a week later, we had some people come to the house, and someone was talking about money. He heard the name money and said, "I know what money's for." And here I am thinking, of course he does. My son's a genius. And we said, "Of course, Connor, what's money for?" And I'm thinking he's going to say for college, for school, for food. It's for lobsters. The value of a dollar is for lobsters. So I am on a roll. Lesson learned. Anyway, going back to working, as hard as we like to drive ourselves, we also believe strongly that winning teams are happy teams. And I am a big component of teams, and they may sound very cliche. And I think I was just speaking with one of you about hiring practices. And it's very easy when you're doing an interview process and people come into your office, and you can have 2 resumes that are exactly the same, or even A can be better than B. And I have this click factor of what clicks. I think it is so important. This works with teams. It is so important that you find the right person to work with you, whether it be an employee, a partner, a business partner. It's a little inside joke there. A business partner, a friend, whatever it is. You have to mesh well with these people because you have to trust them. There's a loyalty there. And I think we learn teams throughout our lives, whether it's going through team sports, whether it be in school, restaurants that I used to work at, where I joined many friends and coworkers where we've all worked very hard. So I encourage, and I know you all know this, but I encourage you to stick with that team. And everybody says, "Oh, there's no I in team." It's very cliche, but I'm a firm believer in it. And I think that's the reason that I was able to do this apprentice, because the staff that I have, both staffs in New York and New Jersey, are so phenomenal and so dedicated and so loyal that they did nothing but encourage me for the 6 weeks that I was basically almost not there.